Welcome to a special episode of the Almost Sideways podcast. I'm Terry. We have Todd. It's the two of us. This is a special episode of the Almost Sideways podcast because Todd and I just made our second annual trip to the Seattle International Film Festival and pulled off a triple feature of films today. And we're going to report on what we watched. Yes, SIFF happens.
SIFF happens. Yes,
Yeah.
It was a journey to get to where we were because there was a folk festival going on in the vicinity. So it took forever for us to park. But once we got there, we were set, and we had a great time at the movies, of course.
Unlike last year, all three movies at the same theater, which was kind of nice, but also kind of weird. We missed the processing walks that we had last year, where we had to travel. It was like a half-hour walk, wasn't it?
Up the hill.
Up the hill, both ways between the theaters. And but this time we were all at the same spot. We got dinner at, what was it?
The Golden Olive.
The Golden Olive, which was a Mediterranean place, like 3 doors down from the movie theater. We were really close to Seattle Center at SIFF Cinema Uptown.
Right across from Dick's.
Right across from Dick's Drive-In. It was a great day at the movies. We programmed our viewing to catch a really interesting double feature, a lot more varied than last year, because last year it was absurd sci-fi comedy, quirky indie, and then really absurdist,
wacky foreign film,
wacky comedy. Yeah, so we've got something different. We're gonna report on them. I think overall we had a better selection this year of films than we had last year.
I also think we watched them in the exact wrong order.
like they should have been flipped. Well, one of the things we talked about is we watched them. First one was the shortest. Last one was the longest. That should have been flipped, but also just in tone. We should have started with the serious one, the serious think piece, and ended with the crazy comedy,
with margaritas.
With margaritas in hand, yes. But let's talk about our triple feature. We're going to go in order of how we watch them, which is the exact wrong order to watch these, but we're going to do it anyways. Our first film last year was Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox. Did I get that right?
Yes, you got it right this time, unlike when we were interviewing the actor.
When we were interviewing the actor.
Tim Travers is dangerous.
Yes. So we this time we had to start with another. There was an option to start with another quirky comedy about time travel with a microscopic budget, and so we're like, well, if we started with the last time, it worked, so let's do it again. So this time we started with a quirky British low budget indie comedy called Time Travel is Dangerous. This is directed by Chris Reading and
Reading.
Is it Reading? Chris Reading, is that what they said?
I don't know. I mean, that's what it looks
Reading
like.
or Reading, either way. He co-wrote it with Anna Elizabeth Shakespeare and Hilary Shakespeare. Don't know if there's any relation there to Bill, but there might be. This is a movie about two women, and their names are, I gotta find them here, where Ruth and Megan, as they kept on saying, Migs, actually is what was her nickname, who find a time traveling machine made out of an old bumper car, and they do what anyone would do in it. They travel back in time to steal things to sell in their vintage secondhand shop. And Ruth and Megan are played by Ruth Surratt and Megan Stevenson. We had a Q&A with the director and writer, one of the Shakespeares, and the director writer afterwards. And one of the things that's interesting about this movie is Ruth and Megan are played by two random vintage secondhand shopkeepers from London that they met. They knew they'd used on other films for like costumes and stuff, and they're like, these people are really funny, we should put them in a movie. And so they did. This is based on a short they had originally made, and you can kind of tell, but that's the concept. They find a time machine, they take it back in time to steal stuff for their shop, and then they get mixed up in this time, or not time travel, this inventors society, secret society, that where the one of the members is the guy who made the time machine. And there's all sorts of hijinks of time traveling is dangerous and you better watch out what you're doing, and they don't, and then chaos ensues, and it all, the world all kind of blows up for a little bit there. This movie is quirky, it's weird. Like I said, you can tell that it was based on a short, because I'd say like the first 15-20 minutes of this thing are hilarious, and then they hit that point of, okay, where are we going to go from here? And that happens a lot when you have these movies that are based on shorts. I thought it was silly enough and quirky enough to keep me interested. I'm probably going to fall like in the 2.5 star range, probably go about 2 stars. So a mild thumbs down. But I mean, when you have these movies on these microscopic budgets, and you can kind of tell, and then they busted out some decent special effects, which I thought were okay. Like the dinosaur pops up at one point because they go back in time to steal dinosaur eggs. It was decent. It worked. And they have a bunch of cameos from some notable faces. The one I noticed the most was Guy Henry, who pops up in a bunch of different stuff. I recognize him most from John Adams, but I'm probably the only one. The narrator is Stephen Fry. Todd will mention a couple others that he recognized. But yeah, I'm gonna settle on about 2.5 stars for time traveling time travel. I keep on adding more to it. You got to stop me when I do that, Todd. Time travel is dangerous. Okay, Todd.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with a lot of what you said. I found it a little bit more difficult to get into. Like the first scene or so was really fun, because I mean, for this movie, I thought immediately this is trying to be a Christopher Guest movie, yeah. but it's British, so the humor is a little bit more aloof and a little bit more difficult to understand.
It's the mockumentary style, like it's like Christopher Guest, The Office, all that kind of stuff, where the cameraman is kind of a character.
Yeah. But I mean, it also does in some ways have the charm of something like Safety Not Guaranteed or whatever. Like time travel movies for indie movies, I guess, is like a really popular thing. I do enjoy the side characters in this. Jane Horrocks is the one that I recognize, and she's really fun to watch. She plays the aviator, because there's this like. There's this weird, like, almost Deer Hunter like thing where the one character has to go rescue the other character from this like deadly game thing.
And you know what it is? It's Ant-Man. It's Ant-Man having to go into the quantum realm. That's really what that is. Yeah, true. The game's pretty weird, and that whole thing. I mean, they definitely have some imagination. And one thing that was interesting in the Q&A is they said that there was actually very little improv, which is bizarre considering these are all like notable comedians, and there is so much like back and forth that you think that like, oh, these people are just like living. Which, I mean, the two people are playing themselves, but apparently this was all scripted, which is strange to write dialogue like that. But it also does that also does lend to the Christopher Guest thing. I'm kind of at 2 stars. I thought it was fine. I did kind of struggle with staying awake in the middle portion. There were people that there are some actors that I've seen before, like Jane Horrocks and some others that are like Mike Lee actors. Guy Henry is a dead ringer for Mark Rylance, and there's a guy that looks just like Joel McHale. And I think the one lead actress, her name, which one is that? Ruth. Ruth looks just like Lily Gladstone. Oh yeah, she does.
And but I mean, these characters are fun, and it is entertaining that this is what the director essentially said was stunt casting, but they're all British people, so we don't really know who they are. But it is a quirky movie. I'm not going to really remember this movie necessarily, but yeah. So I'm falling at 2 stars. it was not really the way we should have watched this one last. I think we would have had a lot more fun with it.
It served the purpose of being the perfect double feature partner with Tim Travers. Like if we had watched Tim Travers and Time Travel is Dangerous back to back, that would be like a killer double feature, because it'll just kind of put you in the mood for it. But yeah,
this is a movie you want to watch at 9 at night with a couple drinks or something. Not really something you want to start your day off at noon.
Yeah, but our crowd was into it.
Yeah, they were laughing at basically everything.
Yeah, that's one problem with the crowd, with the film festival crowd, is they're a little too responsive at times,
especially when they know the filmmakers are there.
Yeah, which, surprise, we weren't expecting to see none of them, and we saw all of them. Yeah. So we had Q&As with every film. We didn't stay for the second one because we had to go get some food, but for the most part, we saw all of them. So that's Time Travel is Dangerous. I'm giving it 2.5. Todd's giving it 2. We're kind of in the same spot on that one. Decent, solid movie. Not necessarily. I walked away from this one the same thing I walked away from on Tim Travers. This is why film festivals exist, is for films like this, because they're never going to get seen otherwise. And it gives them an audience. And if that audience catches on enough and you have enough of a following from that audience, it could actually get seen by more people. And without a film festival like this, it's never going to have that. And this was like one of the first times it had been shown in the States. I think the filmmakers said it was the first time, but IMDb said it showed it in Austin.
Yeah, late last year or something. But yeah, I mean, it is British humor. So if you get into British humor, like if you like the one actor's from the IT crowd, and I've seen some of that, and like that takes like several episodes to like get the speed of it. If you're into that kind of thing, then this will be right up your alley.
All right, so there's Time Travel is Dangerous. That was our first movie. Let's move on to the second movie, which was about as heavy as we could get, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Ooh. It's a movie called Raptures, which is a movie from Sweden, and it is directed and written by this guy, John Blahed. I don't think that's how you pronounce it. But he was also at the we had a Q&A with him. But this is it's a very serious, very moody movie about a remote village in Sweden in the 1930s, World War II era. It's definitely set they make it clear it's during that time, and it's around this community of fundamentalist Christian people, and they are so remote that they're able to sort of like dictate what they're going to actually put out to these people, and like start to take unjust power over them, and it becomes basically a cult. And you see a lot of movies sort of like in this vein. I was thinking a lot of like Women Talking or something like that. There's the main character is Jessica Grabowski is tremendous in her role. But I mean, there's several things that are thrown at you. There's some beautiful cinematography. All the period details are great, and just the landscape of everything in this remote village works out really well. The backdrop, you can feel it in some ways, but it's also just sort of like there. There's the thing of, there's communists, there's Nazis, they're all this stuff is like around, but you're so stuck in this one village, and it's in this language that has never had a movie made in this language before, because it only really exists in this like one part.
I had to look it up. It's Meänkieli is the name of the language. Meänkieli.
And they do some really interesting things with language, and the subtitles kind of jump back and forth between what they're speaking, and it sort of becomes its own character in the movie. It's a movie that's really heavy. It's not difficult to get into, but it's more something that you're going to respect than you're going to actually enjoy watching. I don't know if I would want to sit through this again, but it is something that I'm like, just for almost 2 hours, I was pretty much just like locked in on this drama. So I did like the movie quite a bit. I'm landing at 3 stars on this one.
Yeah, this movie, I agree with a lot of what you said. It was gorgeous to look at. The cinematography is great, whether it's just scenery shots or like some of the shots just even in buildings are just beautiful. The performances, especially from Jessica Grabowski as Raquel, she was just brilliant. I thought the other lead, Theodore Jacob Orman, was pretty good as well. And then there was the old lady. Who was the old lady? She was really good too. Anyways, there are some really solid performances in this. It's kind of hypnotic as you're going along. It says a lot about the culture of being insulated and isolated, and this village is kind of cut off from everything, and it allows for these two men who kind of get this idea to run with it, and everyone follows, and the one person that really has pause is the one outsider who's Raquel, the wife of the leader. She's not from the town, she's from outside. She was brought in to be the teacher, and so she's educated, she's trying to educate, and but they shut down the schools because it's like, no, we're not going to educate anymore, we don't need that, we just need whatever our prophet is telling us of what's going on in what God is communicating through them. So you have that idea of that theme of how education can help make you more critical thinker, and how being isolated and insulated from everything else around you can really lead to those like radical ideas, like spreading and growing and infesting in a culture. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. There's a twist that comes at the end that I don't know if we didn't really care for. It kind of felt unnecessary. I probably
twist in more ways than one.
Oh, I see what you did there. I probably would have thought about 3.5, but with that, it doesn't. I mean, I'm high 3. I might end up at 3.5 the more I sit with it. I also agree that I don't know if it's necessarily something I want to sit through again. You mentioned what something they do with the subtitles. Language like plays its own character in this, and they have the me and Keeley language, and it says right off the bat that there's 3 languages that are going to be spoken in the movie, and each will be subtitled differently so you can tell what is being said at different times. So me and Keeley was in white, the Finnish was in blue, and Swedish was in yellow. And as you go along, you see that there's like reasons for the different languages, and reasons different languages are spoken at different times, and how some languages are almost like vilified if they're being spoken at times. And sometimes, like Swedish is like vilified when it's spoken, but then as the movie moves on, it's more of a, no, Swedish shows that you're learning and you're educated and you're breaking the mold. And it's all because of the color of the subtitle. And I would have never known that. And I thought that was really cool how just the color of the subtitle plays a character in the movie. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Sort of what you were talking about a little earlier, the how they actually shape what they actually are going to tell the people, and what they're going to do. Like they get like a new version of the Bible or whatever, and they're like just someone's like, yeah, this isn't Christianity, this is like wrong, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't know, whatever. And then you see it slowly start to creep in, and to the point that there was a scene that reminded me of The Order, which was like it was like their church service thing, and then it slowly just turned into like this weird, like almost trance cult thing where they were no longer like saying and thinking what they would before, and it completely morphed into this like warped ideology thing, and like things like that I really responded to as well. Yeah, it's a cool movie. I don't know what its chances are to get like a Sweden's submission for the Oscars. That'd be pretty cool. There's some great Swedish filmmakers out there, but this does fit the mold of what the Oscars usually put on their short list.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting if this got picked by Sweden. I think it could be picked by Sweden. And yeah, like you said, it's the type of movie that they would pick. As I'm going through my Oscar watches from past years and seeing what ends up getting on these lists, it's films like this, like the heavy telling a story that no one really else knows about. And the filmmaker said he told this story because he's from this area and spoke this language, and this was always, everyone always talked about like the legend of the cult from this set in like the 1930s, like on the brink of World War II. And so he tells this story that is very important to him because it's a story of kind of his culture's history. So solid 3 stars from both of us on Raptures. Yeah, it'd be great if in 6 months, 7-8 months, we're talking about this being an Oscar nominee, or at least a submission to the Oscars, maybe shortlisted.
Yeah, this was its North American premiere, or the first time it played not in Europe. So
yeah,
I mean, maybe this is the start of its festival run. Like, who knows? It could end up at something like Toronto or something. I don't know. Who knows? But it does seem like one of those movies.
It does. Okay, so that is Raptures. After Raptures, they had a Q&A with the writer director and one of the producers. We jetted out of that to get some food because we had a quick turnaround, and it was made even quicker because we found out that our third movie was going to be one of the most popular movies of the night and had quite the crowd waiting to get in. And we found out
there was a whole list of standby people. So like we had to be in line or we weren't going to get the seats that we actually had paid for. So we were a little worried about that. And so we ended up in line. We turned around and I was like, those are the actors. Like they're here. Like we didn't know anybody was going to be there. But yeah, there was a huge contingent from this movie that came to this screening.
Yeah, it was the writer director, 2 actors, and then some parents. So this movie is called Color Book, and it was written and directed by David Fortune, and it stars William Catlett, who plays Lucky, which is kind of funny because he also is the actor who played the character Lucky in 1001, which was my number 1 a few years ago.
Similar themes.
And a very similar themed movie, too. So William Catlett, who was there, and also there was the actor who plays his son, Mason, who is Jeremiah Daniels. And the story of this, it's shot all in black and white, and it is shot all in Atlanta, Georgia. As the filmmaker said, it's partially a love letter to his hometown of Atlanta. And it tells the story of Lucky and Mason, who are trying to navigate a world that has just been completely turned upside down, as Lucky's wife, Mason's mother, was recently killed in a car accident. And they are learning what their new normal is, while also navigating what it's like to live with a son with Down syndrome, because Mason has Down syndrome and Jeremiah Daniels is a child with Down syndrome as well. And so they're trying to navigate this new normal and decide they need an outing, and to have that outing, they are going to go and take Mason to his first baseball game and go watch the Atlanta Braves play, which was definitely something that Todd was very interested in, as he's a big Atlanta Braves fan. And you see the journey. And one of the things that Todd told me about, and the filmmakers told us about afterwards, is that to go to a Braves game right now, if you live in Atlanta, is a journey, because they moved it out to the suburbs, the new stadium. And so it takes a while, and it took them a while. And there are a lot of twists and turns along the way in more ways than one.
They don't have a car.
They don't have a car. That does make it difficult. So they're taking the MARTA, which is their rapid transit in Atlanta, which takes like several transfers and all sorts of stuff. This movie is quiet and contemplative and just feels lived in. the filmmaker said that he shot it in black and white to kind of help focus more on what you just wanted to focus on these two characters and not focus on all the noise around them. And by making it black and white, you do, because every shot of this movie has Lucky and Mason, and that's really like that is the movie, is these two and how they're able to navigate what they're doing. It tugs at your heartstrings. You can't help but fall in love with Mason. Like if this movie catches on, Mason is gonna be like, what was the kid from Minari? Something Kim. Alan Kim.
Alan Kim.
Right. He could be like this year's Alan Kim, of just like this kid. He was there for the Q&A, and he has a ton of personality and charisma, and he's impossible not to fall in love with, which just oozes off the screen. William Catlett is brilliant in his portrayal of Lucky here, as he's trying to be strong for his son, but also dealing with the grief of what has just happened in his life. I would say, if I have a complaint, this movie's almost 2 hours long. It's a little too long. It probably could have been closer to 90 minutes and just tighten it up a little bit. And I think it may have been a little more effective. There's a lot of just like lingering shots that might go on a little too long. David Fortune got a little too like obsessed with the love letter to Atlanta to tell a story effectively, I feel. Simplify it a little bit, and you have a potential masterpiece here. Even with that, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I was really taken by Color Book. How about you, Todd?
Beautiful question.
Beautiful question. So the Q&A, so we had a guy who was moderating the Q&A, and he asks this 5-minute question to start about all the themes and the nuance of the movie. And
right there he says, if you have a question, just ask it.
Yeah. And he just and then he goes on for 5 minutes on this question. And then he finally asks a question of like, how do you come up with these themes of grief and all this stuff? And the director's first words are, beautiful question. And it was a beautiful question. If you think about it that way, it was. But what happened is Mason, every time he answered a question, the first thing he would say after that is, beautiful question. It was beautiful. I loved it. Anyways,
yes, the people in the screening, which there were a bunch. I mean, everyone stayed for this Q&A. It was pretty cool. I like this movie a lot too. I'm at 3.5 stars as well. I think William Catlett is really special in this movie. He has this relatability, but also this like tortured like anger thing going on that reminded me a little bit of like Jonathan Majors or something. I feel like he could play a role like this. And Jeremiah Daniels is awesome. Like if there's any justice, he would be like a nominee at the Critics' Choice for like Best Young Actor or something. And I guarantee he will win anybody over if he ever gives a speech in front of someone. The movie has the structure of something like The Pursuit of Happiness, I guess, but it's not corny. Like it's these two characters who are sort of trying to find their way like through the going the public route throughout the whole city to try to find their way to this one baseball game on the other side of town.
Going to the game. We're going to the game. We're going to the game.
But the scenes that really are touching are the ones where it's just the two characters like sitting at a table, like doing drawings, or like him trying to teach him how to read longer words than just one, or
spell his name.
Yeah, or spell his name. It also has this thing where it sort of has like a before sunrise kind of thing where they'll come across like a bunch of just random characters and they'll have one scene. I think, is it Meech? Is that the one that
I think so, yeah.
Where he's like, oh man, you've grown up since the last time I saw you. What are you up to now? He's like 7 feet. He's like, man, they be lying shit. Like that character was fun. But you have a bunch of these things, and yes, by someone who has been to Atlanta and someone who has been to a Braves game, and been to like these like diners in the middle of the night. Like, I mean, everything is so authentic. This actually feels like Atlanta. The one thing is, I didn't actually know what year this was set in until like almost the end of the movie when he pulls out a cell phone and then you actually see the sign for Truist Field. I feel like this was probably in the 90s, like for almost the entire thing, because nothing really made a whole lot of sense with technology, because there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief with like navigation and stuff like that, and communicating with people, like even like when he goes to try to buy a vehicle from somebody, and it just seems if he actually used technology, it would have made a lot more sense. But it actually is set in the present day, which I did not know until late in the movie. It is a very fun movie, though. Or I mean, it's fun in a way, but it's also it is something that will stick with you and get inside you almost immediately, because these characters are so interesting.
Yeah, it's rare for a movie like this to be endearing, but not corny. Like that's kind of it rides that line of being real and grounded in reality, but also instantly endearing. And I think that comes from that relationship between Lucky and Mason.
Yeah, it's a better version of something like Coda, where Coda has like the things that are designed to make you cry. This is just like, it's so true to life that it doesn't need those things, but it still will get the same result.
Yeah, these characters. And I think that's even what the filmmaker said in the Q&A is this movie was meant to be not giving you good guys, bad guys, or anything like that. It's giving you characters that you can relate to, and giving you characters that need to be seen, and just showing them to you, and you can see just who they are. So I thought you said, when you said you didn't know what when it was set, I thought you were going to say when I watched the game on TV and you saw that Joe Jimenez was closing out a game for the Braves, you were like, oh yeah, okay, now I know what year this was set in.
That's true. I mean, I guess I could have figured it out there. But do you know what I mean? Like it does.
Yeah, I can see that.
It does, just, which is why so many directors set movies in the past, is because like it makes it a lot easier.
Cell phones from the situation.
Yeah, it makes it easier to tell your story without the needing to, if someone to pull out their phone every 5 minutes.
True. Yeah, no, this is a great movie, and hopefully we're trying to see if it has distribution yet. It doesn't look like it, but I think it looked like this was a popular movie, and I could see
it could be the Golden Space Needle winner. Like it seemed like something that was going to have the groundswell of something, at least from this festival. And it has won festival prizes leading up to this. It premiered, I think, originally at Tribeca. Is that
yeah, I think that's what they said. It was Tribeca. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe this is the start of a nice little run, and hopefully get some love it, like maybe the Gotham Awards or something.
Indie Spirits, I could see this popping up. I could see William Catlett pop up there.
Those first couple things, maybe it'll throw it a bone in some category and start a little run.
Yeah, it has an uphill climb to try and win something at this festival. They had some bigger titles there. What were some of the bigger titles? That Twinless was one with Dylan O'Brien.
Sorry, Baby.
Yeah, that was the closing night film that I think is playing while we record this, or probably over by now. Yeah, so it had some bigger titles. Seattle International Film Festival does get some decent stuff, but yeah, these were the three that we watched, and like I said, I think we had a better program set for us this time around than last time around. But I don't know, we kind of had a good one. Like we had
the perfect we had the perfect list last year. They just didn't turn out to be the best movies necessarily, or at least not our speed, except for Bonjour Switzerland was one we loved.
And which still is impossible to see anywhere. Like that, you can't watch that anywhere yet.
Well, what I think is interesting is, like, just like last year, our first movie is the one we liked the least, the second one is the one we liked the middle, and the third one is the one that we were kind of enthusiastic about.
But they're such different movies too.
I know, but I mean, it just so happened to be that way. If this one would have played first, it would have been just as emotional.
But the difference was with last year is we went into it, like, our middle movie was Janet Planet last year, which was supposed to be it was getting great reviews, and even like it's a total Zach movie. That, I mean, that's
the most Zach movie ever made.
It's the most Zach movie ever made. You gotta see it, and that's where kind of where it was, and we watched it and we were like, nyeh. And then we tuned into this quirky Swiss comedy that blew us away. So this one, it was a little heavier, but especially the last two were quite heavy. but really solid films.
I wouldn't really say Color Book is heavy. It's just it is a drama, and it is an indie drama in the same way that, like we were saying, 1001. I would say the tone of that is pretty similar, and I wouldn't really call that heavy. I would just say that it's an effective drama.
Yeah.
But yes, Rapture is absolutely a heavy watch.
Yeah. Well, and I'd say the difference between Color Book and 1001 is Color Book takes place in 36 hours, where 1001 takes place over 36 years, almost 18 years.
I don't know. I mean Color Book, because it starts before the car crash. I mean, there's probably a lot more time.
Oh, sure. There's one.
But the majority of it, is a pretty short turnaround.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our trip to Seattle International Film Festival. We were both saying we wish that we could find time to do more at the festival.
I guess we could have done another movie or even 2 movies tonight, because they are playing until like midnight. But
yeah, we could have done 4 or 5 today, but we
did. We got our 6-pack, which is the best deal.
Yeah. So if you're local and you want to do SIFF, they do a 6-pack of tickets for, was it $80?
Yeah.
So 6 tickets for $80, and so we just bought 2 to 3 different showings, and it was our passes in. You can become a member of Seattle International Film Festival, and it gives you some perks along the way. We don't live close enough to Seattle to make it work. We had to drive 50-60 minutes to just get to the theater. So that wouldn't necessarily be worth it if we had to do that every time we wanted to use our membership. But it is a great film festival. We went, this was like the closing night film. Like I said, it was tonight. They've got some showings tomorrow, and they announced the winners tomorrow. So probably by the time you hear this, we're going to know who won the Golden Space Needle, which is their top prize. And they have a best performance and a best director. But yeah, SIFF is a great film festival. We're enjoying going to it. We'll probably do this again next year. If you listen to this and you want to show up, come on and find us. I think we're going to try and have giant bright green t-shirts next year, so everyone knows who we are. Yeah. So one last recap. Our first film, Time Travel is Dangerous, I gave 2.5 stars to. Todd gave 2 stars to. Second film, Raptures, we both gave 3 stars to. Color Book, we both gave 3.5 stars to.
And so, when you come out of the movie, you're supposed to rate the movie out of 5, which we don't really do.
Yeah.
So we don't really talk about what we did. We talked about that last year. I went 2 stars, 2, 3, and 5.
I went 3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5.
I went 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Time Travel, it needed. I mean, it's one of those where I feel like if you give it a film like that, a tiny little film that's trying to just make it, if you give it anything lower than a 2, if it was, it kept me curious, and I was like, throw it a bone.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing.
Throw it a freaking bone here. Exactly. It was Tim Travers, and Tim Travers became a thing for us. Like, we got to interview the star of it and everything. So if anyone out there is listening that was a part of any of these films and wants to come on the podcast, be interviewed for one of our side chats, we would love to have you. We probably should have talked. We should have talked to some of the filmmakers. They were all there. Like we had a real missed opportunity.
Well, Terry did ask a question at one of the.
I did ask a question,
and I got it on video, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to remember that. It was a question I feel like they've gotten.
Probably. I asked the time travel people if what was their favorite time period to take their characters back to. And they said the Wild West, which was a brilliant answer, because it was probably the best scene of the movie. It was pretty great. The Seattle Film Festival is pretty small still, even though it is international. They do have like 100 movies playing. It is so intimate that you walk out of the screening and like you're just standing there like right next to the filmmakers. Like they're like right next to the concession stand, right next to the door. Like it's a tiny venue that we were watching these movies in, but I mean they're just personable enough that they're just going to stand there and talk to you for as long as you want to, really. So goals for next year: t-shirts, business cards.
Business
cards. That's what we need. Like, hey, give us a shout out. That's what we need.
And plan parking out beforehand.
We drove around for 10 minutes looking for which lot we were going to park in that wasn't going to charge us $35 for the day. But
Yeah, thank you, Folk Festival.
Yeah, thanks, Folk Festival.
I guess we could have taken the light rail, but that doesn't work for every venue. Just this one was going to drop us out pretty close.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our report on the Seattle Film Festival 2025.
We didn't do what we've been drinking.
Oh, we didn't. We didn't.
We'll do this at the end. Terry, what are we drinking?
We are drinking. So I just picked this up from Costco. It is from Reuben's Brews in Seattle. This is the Reuben's Crush. It says it twice. I don't know why it says it twice. Once with a K, once with a C. It's their hazy IPA. And one's really big and one's really small. It's like an echo. Crush. And you can't really see it, but I'm going to show it to the camera anyways.
Light's too bright.
It kind of looks like a blue version of what the time travel people drove through. So,
yeah,
it kind of does. It does. Anyways, there we go. That is our 2025 Seattle Film Festival. I mean, it'd be great to be able to go do like the entire, like all these guys are, while we're doing this, while we were sitting there, we found out who won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Like, it'd be great to be able to go to Cannes and do that stuff, or even go to Seattle and just sit there and watch 5 movies a day for 2 weeks. But we have lives.
A lot of these movies do have a streaming version that is going to be available like after tomorrow. So there is still a possibility to watch these movies after we know what the winners are, but then you can't. I mean, the voting isn't
definitely try and see Color Book. Right now, it's got 51 votes on IMDb.
Which is crazy because I mean it came out originally in 2024, so that and it's won prizes and still 51 votes seems incredibly light.
Rapture has 110 votes on IMDb, and Time Travel is Dangerous has 157. So these are 3 films that have not been very well seen yet. I think it's worth watching all of them. If you like quirky comedy, mockumentary type stuff, Time Travel is Dangerous, you're gonna love. Raptures and Color Book are worth a watch for sure.
I still don't know when Bonjour Switzerland's coming out from last year, but Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox just is coming out like this month.
Yeah, so it's got a release date on IMDb.
It took an entire year for it to finally get distributed after playing at basically every film festival in North America. But I still don't know what's going on with Bonjour Switzerland. That movie was fun. So, but I mean, so maybe it will take a while still. But like a couple of these movies did premiere already last year. So maybe this is the end of their festival run. Maybe they'll get there. Yeah, like Color Book premiered at last year's Tribeca. So that's why that's got a 2024 date on it. And yeah, so the other 2 came over from across the pond. One British, one Swedish. This was fun. This is always a great day where we get to go just nerd out on movies for a while and spend a day in Seattle. I never get to spend a day in Seattle, so even at those in a really weird part of Seattle, we saw a Space Needle. Like we were around Seattle Center area, so we got to see a Space Needle. That was good. This is good. Yeah,
I think it's
usually we're only in SoDo, so
true. We're only near the stadiums, so I think it's time to sign off. We're signing off.
Sit and spin.
Have fun watching movies. We'll catch you on the flip side. And take care.